Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to round 14 of season 6 of the F124 driver career mode. Yes, we're back here ready for the Singapore Grand Prix. Of course, if you missed out on the video that went live earlier on this week, back on Monday I believe, from Monza, the Temple of Speed, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. We have just 3 races left of the season and it is all still to play for at the top of the table. Charles Leclerc has a 5-point lead over myself. We have a further 5-point lead over Oscar Piastri, but even George Russell and Fernando Alonso are not out of it just yet late on in the campaign. Of course, we've got the Singapore Grand Prix here before we've got the Brazilian sprint weekend, and then, well, anything can happen at Vegas come the end of the campaign. Oscar Piastri, 2 wins back-to-back in the last 2 Grand Prix. He is the driver with all the momentum as we head to the circuit here in Singapore, but this has got to be one of my best tracks inside the game. Fingers crossed we can have a good race this weekend. Of course, if you're new, please do make sure you hit that sub button as well. We're trying to hit 140k on the channel right now. Also, obviously, if you want to help support us even more, you can click the join button and you get early access to all of these videos as well on the channel. So yeah, if you want to see what happens towards the end of the year before anybody else, that's the best way to do it for just £1 a month. But anyway, let's head then into qualifying here for the Singapore Grand Prix.
It is one of our great cinematic settings of the season. Welcome to Singapore. We're under the floodlights with the walls close and pole position up for grabs.
Well, I forgot to mention in the intro, but this is the first race I'm doing on the all-new patch for F124. I don't know if it's actually changed anything in terms of the way the cars handle or anything like that, but you never know with coders, something might have changed and even they don't realise it at the moment. But yeah, Singapore though, one of my favourite circuits on the calendar inside this game. You know, the new changes to this venue really have been a nice welcome addition to the title, and the last couple of weekends we've been very, very strong in qualifying, so I would like to continue that on here around Marina Bay. Purple through the first sector, that's exactly what we need to kickstart this lap, but it can very, very easily kind of come undone. This is always a great track in the Mercedes car because we have so much traction and confidence in the rear end, but yeah, the Ferrari and the Haas car definitely are a little bit more loose and lively. It's talking of, just nudged the wall over the Anderson Bridge there. That was not what we needed to do. Luckily that we got away with as little damage as we did to the car, but you can just see there Fernando Alonso just streaking away slightly as we make our way down the back straight there. Again, a little bit of a wobble as maybe just upset the rear tyres just a little bit more here. A few more corners to navigate then, and we are out of the top 10 at the moment. Unless we can really nail this, this might be a really, really bad qualifying session for us. Skim the wall again. One more corner to go. Oh, just not quite the confidence on the exit. P11 on the grid. That has been a disaster. Well, there we go. Fernando Alonso will storm to pole position here ahead of Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. George Russell will line up 4th. So 4 cars from 4 different teams, separated by less than 1/10 of a second. Come the end of qualifying, we will line up a disappointing P11, ready for the GP, but still 1/4 of a second clear of our teammate Pierre Gasly. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a quick look at kind of the engine components. We might serve some grid penalties here. Brazil and Vegas are 2 tracks that we're going to need a lot of horsepower, so it might be worth sacrificing a little bit today to be stronger in those last 2.
It's the Singapore Grand Prix where Sebastian Vettel has the most wins here with 5. Who will be lifting the trophy today here at the Marina Bay circuit? This is a wonderful racetrack to come to, but it's sometimes been a bit tricky to overtake. We have a new layout to try and change all of that. Reduced to 3 miles, it's turn 16 and turn 19, which has gone from corners to a straight. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Fernando Alonso lines up on pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Considering the rest of the grid we have Russell, Oscar Piastri, Hamilton, Tsunoda, Stroll, Perez, Norris, Firestarter, Iwasa, Verstappen, Fittipaldi, Albon, Gasly, Ocon, Behrman, Ricciardo, Joe, and Frederick Vesti. That's it then. It's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race.
Well, the new patch might have done some things to F124, but it certainly hasn't fixed the grid penalties. How on earth that is... This was never a glitch in previous games. How coders have still never fixed it inside F124, I will not understand. We've put a load of fresh components in the back of the car, and somehow we've ended up higher up on the grid than we had actually from where we qualified. So I'm going to just double check that the engine components have gone on, and then we will shuffle ourselves to the back of the field. Yeah, there you go. 22 place grid penalty for component change. It hasn't worked. 5 red lights though here in Singapore. And it is going to be lights out, and away we go there. So like I said, we will move out the way of everybody in towards that first corner. As you can see, yeah, we have got a completely fresh engine in the back of the wagon. So, I mean, little things like that for F125 desperately need fixing there. But ultimately, that has meant that we haven't been able to make any progress up through the first couple of corners. Verstappen, we had a really good Saturday night here. He will be pretty much, well, he's pretty much out of the World Championship anyway, but with a grid penalty as we head into the Grand Prix, that has made his life even more difficult as Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly, a former Alpine duo, just see one of them locking up just a little bit in front there as they were going wheel to wheel.
Bad start, but don't overreact. We can salvage this.
So we'll try and have a look around the outside of Fred Vesti. Luckily, he does give me fair racing room on the exit of the corner there, and we'll get around the outside. I don't think he wanted to go wheel to wheel in through what used to be the Singapore Sling here in Marina Bay, but yeah, there we go then. We've kept it fairly clean and tidy on lap 1. So Vesti there just trying to potentially have a bit of a look back down the inside. I know we've got good pace around this venue. I know we can carve our way through, so we've just got to try and be patient early on. Let the race come to us. The big one we've got to try and make sure is that we beat Charles Leclerc here. Fernando Alonso, although I am still worried about him, not as worried as, yeah, Charles Leclerc and Oscar Piastri. Those are the big two for us. But I don't know why, but it seems like I'm really having to try and fire up the front tyres on this car right now. It seems to really be struggling with the front end in towards some of the corners. So, yeah, it feels like I'm about to really work more temperature into it than I normally would have to around this circuit. Admittedly, you know, the Haas isn't naturally as responsive as a Mercedes or a Ferrari would be inside of this game. But yeah, struggling with it more than I thought I would early on here. Is trying to have a look then to the outside of Daniel Ricciardo in his V-Carb. Of course, the last race, the Australian actually raced that in real life Formula 1. Well, we will get around him and relegate him to 19th. A little bit of an update then for the cars at the front of the order. It looks like Leclerc then is trying to make the move on Oscar Piastri. So Zhou Guanyu then not getting the run off of that final corner. And now it looks like George Russell has made the move on Charles Leclerc. So definitely a lot of battles going on, but this works out beautifully for Fernando Alonso. Of course, I've had a couple of battles with him in the last couple of seasons around this circuit. But with us, yeah, way down the order, Fernando surely is going to bag another Singapore Grand Prix victory today. Just don't know what it is, but he loves this place. Well, I'm just watching. I think Esteban Ocon might have a tiny bit of damage as well here, because he's really struggling to keep up with some of the cars just in front. Annoyingly, though, he's giving Ollie Behrman a bit of slipstream, a bit of DRS every time round. We know that Williams is not exactly a slow car in a straight line anyways. Here we go. 3 wide. Can we get it slowed down? Yes, we can. I will take that. Down the inside of the pair of them there. That got a little bit sketchy down the end of the back straight. As you can see, Esti Besti trying to hang the car back up the inside on the exit of the corner. We're up into P15 though. Next up is our teammate, so hopefully Pierre won't make my life too difficult. But look at that, yeah, Verstappen down in P13.
Caution.
Oh, we've got yellows, I think that's Tsunoda. So disappointment then for Yuki Tsunoda, who seems to be pulling over in this Grand Prix. And well, Yuki, he was running really well early on. I mean, he's just given me my objective for this Grand Prix. We've got more yellows out towards the front of the order. Could that be one of our front runners with issues? Or is that just one of the weird little bugs that for some reason plague Singapore inside this game? I think everybody is still running. For whatever reason, if someone breaks down on the start-finish straight, he doesn't even recognise it actually, in terms of kind of within the race. But the mini-map is always adamant there's another yellow flag out round here. Anyway, we can now see the points. I think that's Alex Albon in that final point paying position right now. So hopefully we're going to be inside that top 10 before we pit. Or I try and go for an undercut, which might need to be done. Oh, that settles it. That settles it. We've done a Lando Norris as well. Just skim the wall. The pace actually doesn't seem to be too bad with the front wing damage, but the last thing we need is to end up picking up more damage and potentially losing more time in the Grand Prix. So, well, normally I try and go long in the first stint here in Singapore. That's definitely not going to be the case tonight, as into the pit lane we'll go then. Hopefully, it'll just mean we stay ahead of the likes of Ocon and Behrman here. You can see Esteban is definitely holding up Ollie Behrman in this Grand Prix. It just seems like he can't find the way around him. But yeah, Zhou Guan Yu right down at the rear of the field as well, still just kind of limping around. But yeah, I mean, Sauber. Some of you guys have said, if we win the title this year, you'd like to see me go to Sauber. I was planning on doing a series anyway with them over on Map 2 and 2 gameplay. But that could be quite fun if we win the title this year. And that is a big if. Well, we've got to make sure that we don't get held up behind Zhou Guan Yu for any time at all. There you can just see how much the Sauber driver struggling to position that car where he needs to be. And I mean, that thing is just so bad in every area inside this game. Round the outside we'll go.
That gap ahead, please. 17.5 seconds.
Well, that worked out, to be honest, pretty nicely for us there. Zhou Guan Yu gave me the slipstream. We were able to get comfortably past him, so we didn't even have to try and get him on the brakes. And lets us by. I mean, it must be so horrible if you're in a car that is so far off the pace week in and week out. You just think there must be no point fighting with anybody here, but as Sauber proved obviously in Qatar at the end of last year, anything is still possible. Oh, there we go. That's really important then. Fernando Alonso into the pit lane. He is the first to blink of any of our other runners in this Grand Prix. Looks like Charles Leclerc's tried to go differently to everybody else up towards the front of the order there and extend the stint one extra lap. But for both George and Fernando Alonso at the front of the order, obviously they need a big result today to make sure obviously that they stay in the fight. We have just been getting more and more confident on these hard compounded tyre here, and I think we might have actually worked a big undercut. You can just see there at 127.5. And look at that then, we're going to come out right with Oscar Piastri in this Grand Prix. Can we get around the outside of the Ferrari man? No, we can off of turn 1. This undercut has worked massively for us here, as it looks like Russell has actually got the jump on Fernando Alonso, and he's got past Fred Vesti as well there. Oscar Piastri is going to be vulnerable, still trying to get heat into the tyres of that Ferrari.
Car behind, running hard tyres.
And I think it's Vesti breaking down. He's either breaking down or he's trying to let these guys by. I'm not sure why. But yeah, that's worked out fantastically for George Russell then, getting the jump in the pit lane. Alonso still struggling a little bit here, as can we try and line up a move? Oh, Fred Vesti clearly wanted to defend that one, but we'll go around the outside. I think he slapped the inside wall there, a little bit thrown off in the process. But as we cross half distance, though, we are up into net P3 of this race. The problem is these tyres are going to be wrecked by the end. Well, unless Charles Leclerc can kind of produce a miracle in that Mercedes through the pit stops here, I think he's going to get undercut by at least our top 3. Oscar Piastri, though, has lost like bags of time in all of that going on, but I think so has Charles Leclerc. So Oscar Piastri is going to come out ahead of him, and Charles Leclerc then, I think he got held up in the pit lane. He might even get jumped by his teammate. There's Lewis Hamilton then up into P5 of the Grand Prix. So that is a big turnaround for the books at the moment. And our top driver in the World Championship, if things were to finish like this, I would take the lead at the top by just 3 points. Oh, here we go, here we go. Alonso down the inside of George Russell. Can't quite make it happen that time round, but yeah, I haven't really seen any kind of semblance that Alonso was going to potentially be able to try and line up a move on the McLaren car. But suddenly then, things getting very heated as I brush up against the wall. That's going to bring us just that little bit closer. Well, let's see then this time round. I mean, Alonso is practically pushing George Russell along. This race is critical for both of their World Championships. We've said this so many times for Fernando. Oh, look at that. Russell almost puts him in the wall down the end of the back straight there. Fernando locks up. George Russell will hang on there. We thought about it. Down the inside on the exit, and the Spaniard could not make anything happen. And what at the moment, all this is doing is allowing Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc to close in a little bit more. But Alonso, the last 2 seasons at this very venue, has kind of felt like for him, a win was needed. It didn't come, and that kind of knocked him out of a World Championship hunt. Could it happen again? I mean, we are just here to enjoy the show right now. As again, Alonso, he'll look to the left, he'll go to the right. This time around, he's going to get the elbows out. And Fernando Alonso to the lead of the Singapore Grand Prix once again. I really did wonder if he'd lose it once and for all through the pit window. But Russell now has got to try and hang with him. But does the Aston Martin have the pace? Well, in the ideal world for me, these two battle each other. Russell does what he did back at Silverstone, locks up and tries to make a mistake. As that got a little bit sketchy. But yeah, that's actually really interesting. We might be able to get a run on Russell at some point towards the end of this. Now he just sees having to both attack and defend. Well, the resemblance between this race and the 2023 real-life Singapore Grand Prix seems, well, a little bit almost too similar at the moment. A Spaniard getting chased home by 2 British drivers. And ultimately now it feels like the Spaniard is trying to keep the guy in P2 there, so the guy in P3 can't get past him and potentially attack for the win here. But George Russell, of course, in that Grand Prix binned it on the very last lap. Could we see the same tonight inside this Singapore Grand Prix? I'm trying to push Russell right back up into the range of Fernando in P1. We are just leaning on the last remaining shred that is left on these tyres right now. Charles Leclerc in P5, he has been the fastest man still throughout most of the second half of this race. But again, you can just see Russell, he accepts that he doesn't get close enough. He tries to charge at the battery pack once again, but that just, if anything, leaves him more vulnerable on the exit of the corner. A really, really odd strategy by George here late on in the day. And, well, once Fernando got back past him, it really just seemed like George Russell has had no fight against the Aston Martin late on here. But for Fernando Alonso, he is a lap and a half away from a victory that has haunted him over the last couple of seasons. Ever since the first Singapore Grand Prix, Fernando Alonso's tales here have been storied. Obviously took that win in 08, Crashgate. Should never have had that win from P15 on the grid. Won it then for real in 2010 in one of the closest finishes of all time there, defending from Sebastian Vettel for so many laps around this venue. I don't believe he's won around here ever since then, but tonight could finally be the night for Fernando. He's missed out in the last 2 Grand Prix here. I know he span it in one, and then the other one we were just able to get around him. This has been where Fernando Alonso has faced losses and that has ultimately cost him a shot at a World Championship. Are we going to see the same tonight? There is, look at Russell really trying to defend off the exit of the corner there. Will we be able to get a run on him up in towards the end of Raffles Boulevard there? You can see for Alonso, that might be the gap he needs as we try to look around the outside of George. A little bit of understeer though on the exit of the corner. We're still going to be wheel to wheel though. As the McLaren man gives me a big old squeeze on the exit of the corner. Russell can't quite put the power down. We have to give him the room though on the exit of the corner. Brilliant wheel to wheel racing between myself and George at the moment there. But again, he would just about hang on in through the old Singapore sling there as all contact. George Russell, I don't think he realised that I'd hang alongside him there. And suddenly Alonso has been able to bolt free on the last lap here. He's been under so much pressure towards the end, but the final race results are not going to tell that story. As the Aston Martin man, he needs this win to give himself hope, to give himself a chance for the World Championship. Your top 5 at the top of the table are going to be your top 5 coming home here in Singapore. Through the final corner though, finally, Fernando Alonso, it is redemption day in Marina Bay. He will take the win. We will come through for 3rd.
Fernando Alonso has done it, and he takes the win!
And it's one thing to win, but to win like that in total dominant style, that was a fantastic drive, and it is not one that we see very often.
Aston Martin's performance today has shown that they can be competitive with the biggest names in the sport. They're making their way out onto the podium now as we speak, and the reaction from the crowd must be incredibly uplifting for them.
Well, there we go then. Fernando Alonso takes victory here in Marina Bay. Finally, is this going to be what he needs to stay in World Championship contention? George Russell comes through for P2. Just keeps topping up that points tally over at McLaren there. Ahead of myself, Oscar Piastri in 4th with Charles Leclerc in P5 there. Mercedes, they look like they have really good pace this weekend. I just don't know why they sacrificed Charles. I can only guess it was his choice to try and go long in the first stint, but it really didn't work for him. But he did still get back past his teammate there. Perez beats out Fittipaldi with Norris and Verstappen rounding out our top 10 there. So I think that just goes to show there were 2 races to go. I think Verstappen is out of championship contention. Only Yuki Tsunoda that failed to see the checkered flag. Let's take a look then. As you can see, we now have a 1-point lead over Charles at the top of the table. Your top 3 now covered by just 9 points with 2 race weekends left. George Russell, 18 back. Fernando Alonso, that was a pretty critical win for him, but he's going to need to deliver still in Brazil and, of course, Vegas at the end of the year. But it does now mean it is a 5-horse race at the top of the table. 60 points still available with 2 weekends to go. 5 drivers, 5 teams. This is looking spectacular at the moment there. I mean, that's the earliest I think Verstappen has ever been knocked out of a championship fight inside this game as well. Constructors-wise, though, Mercedes now with a 9-point lead over McLaren. Ferrari and Aston Martin all still with a shot. Unfortunately, Gasly hasn't really carried his end of the team this season, so I think, yeah, we are going to get knocked out of that one probably next weekend out in Brazil as well. But thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back very soon when Formula 1 returns ready for the Brazilian Grand Prix.